Yeah. Okay, so welcome everybody to the first parallel session. This is our hybrid parallel session. So we've got colleagues joining us online and some colleagues as well in the room. So we would like to welcome Wael Badawy from our partner institution, Global Academic Foundation, GAF in Egypt. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about the content localization for UH franchise modules, some challenges, the lesson learned, and the implication for delivery improvement. Over to you, Wael.
Okay, thank you. And I am very pleased to be part of the GAF group for about maybe a year or year and a half. And as my presentation is content localization, we basically, if you can go next, we basically have two. Can you just move to the next slide? We basically will describe franchise and content localization and the significance of content localization. Can you move next? Before we want to talk about the challenges, we shall understand what are the type of graduate or what are the type of learner, because we call them learner. We don't call them students. What kind of learner will join a franchised site instead of going to an alternative government or local school, and instead of going to UK? So during our analysis of the demographic of these different students, they usually people who have strong social ties, or they are really junior to be travel on their own to study at UK. In addition, they may not have all the means to support their financial means to support their studies in UK. However, they have some budget to be able to pay a franchise site. Many of them are prohibited to travel because of the service for the military, because of their age, because of a few things. So the question, as the KPI was saying today for the manifesto of the students at UH, what is the potential employability of this graduate? So if we understand the employability in UK or in EU as larger size of or larger premises to UK, anybody can work in Europe with a UK degree. If people will be in Egypt in particular, they need to find some localization to some content so they can maintain employability as well in Egypt. Not everybody under the umbrella of they will go to UK degree and they will get a degree from here, so they will transfer to Europe. This kind of models, it seems intuitive to different partner in our school. However, this is not the reality. Many of them, they basically came from an IG program, or they came from a British high school degree, and they want to continue through this pathway because they feel comfort with this content. And as I said, they do have the mean, but they may not have the capability of traveling. So in this case, we need to prepare somebody for both opportunities, someone who will work in UK with a UK equivalent degree. At the same time, he will be able to maintain into the local content. So when we receive materials from UH in Hatfield, the material usually DMD, and the program will have some sort of ILOs. We found out some issues, which is I'm stating few stories. I will not be able to disclose fully the modules or full situation, but I'll just highlight what are the stories and what are the challenges. For example, we have cultural issues. In Egyptian cultures, there are some stuff which is people admire. In the demographic of our students, there are also some cultural values, which is, for example, if you want to come and describe a probability problem and talk about slot machine. In our cultures, or the Egyptian culture overall, Middle Eastern culture, a slot machine is not appreciated as an example for a probability problem. So there are some cultural values here in this country where we have to look after it. The issues we found out is you have two different DMDs. You have a DMD which is stated, for example, in contents like finance, they will describe the British charter accounts. So in this case, we will have some sort of regularity. We will have some sort of different laws and different practice for the Egyptian charters for accounting. So this is the kind of regularities which is we would like also to understand and discuss. There is also some language localization, as I was just stating to our assistant here. There are some verbs, some keywords, some language which is used around here, but not every language will be able to maintain. One of the challenges we had is when we got model answers for a course in computer science, and the model answer was very concise, very descriptive keywords. We could not, the staff teaching this module, they had a great hard time trying to map the language came from Hatfield to the language used by our students, because our students usually do not have this concise, they are not into this level of comprehensive English. The fourth challenge we have been seeing is pedagogical adoption. Our staff, majority of them comes from local institutions. They don't come from UK. Therefore, they are not adopted and they don't use so many pedagogies which we use. For example, not such a hybrid room where you can deliver or co-deliver online and in person at the same time. There are some activities like pedagogies, like what we have been seeing in business school, for example, on how to run a tutorial or how to engage the students as a subgroups to work on a specific problem or a specific tutorials. This kind of pedagogical adoption is also one of the major challenge we have here. Coming back to summarize what I was trying to say here is the challenge of contact localizations, it shall consider culture context, it shall consider language localization, regularity compliance, as well as pedagogical adoption. One more thing on language, bringing local, like if we want to understand what is the main vibe or what is the main source of professors to teach in institutions which is not connected to the government system, because in the government system you'll be the top of your class, you'll end up being on a PhD, you'll end up being a professor, assistant professor, associate, and full professor, or lecturer, assistant, and instructor, lecturer, and assistant. So one of the key issues is you don't have the source of people who speak first language English. If we have a couple of institutions around us here, which is primary language is English, majority of their staff will not be able to go elsewhere because these institutions are established more than a new franchise model. So one of the things about language localization is you basically get 80 to 90% of your teaching staff from Arabic mainly speaking language institutions. Majority of them will not be able to speak English as a first language or even as a communication language. They can use it only for instructions. So the second segment out of this 90% will be maybe about 5 to 7%, which will be people coming from organizations like Ministers of Health or some places where they did studies overseas, maybe in UK or in North America, and they have passion for teaching. However, their job is not about teaching. So, however, they found a way from practical perspective to join the institutions. And maybe 3 to 5% will be people like me and other fellows coming from overseas, like the members like Simon, my co-author, is actually 8 years in Canada, Commonwealth, so I have better communication in English despite my accent. So this describes the challenges. If you can move next, what I want to talk about next is what lessons learned we did and what is the practice we did. So we had to collaborate with local different partners, institution fit this gap. So one of the partners we deal with are usually international companies who will have the capacity for language, or in the international companies who will have capacity to hire our students when they will graduate. This collaboration will come into different meaning. One is to invite them as a guest speaker in each one of our courses. We adopt a strategy to have 1 or 2 guest speakers as part of our module assessments. We also establish what we call it Industry Advisory Board. And this Industry Advisory Board allows us to spend 1 day with a bunch of industries from the local communities. Majority of them are like Siemens, like Valeo. Majority of them are large international organizations who would like to see employees or future employees which will work on international scale. Also, we establish with them some kind of collaborative projects, or sometimes we just do specific tasks for them. And one of our interesting collaboration was our industry project this year, because it was the first time to run the individual industrial project, where we had to send the students outside, and the students will bring an industry partner, and we help them with other industry partner. And in the business school, for example, we had at least 41 industry partners out of the 47, and the other 6 were local to the university, because the students could not get 47 industry partners. The other aspect of our lesson learned is for our assessments, we will need to play assessments for our courses into assessments to cover the localization, because as I stated, if the DMD will not mention or will not give a room so we can accommodate alternative charter of accounting, for example, or alternative building code in civil engineering, or alternative security and privacy rules like in computer science. And I'm trying to show that this is not a problem with civil, or it's a problem because of the whole thing. Like you have you have some specific privacy rules in Europe, and in Egypt we have alternative privacy laws. I'm not saying which one is better, which one is bad. However, if you want to have a graduate who can serve both markets, he needs to be exposed to both. So when we run into a situation where we cannot augment the material with our own local market material, we end up delivering this through summative assessments, through guest speakers, part of the projects or the term papers. They may include a comparative studies or something along this line. And we are always looking for venues to be able to make our graduate aware of the local requirement, along with the international requirement or the UK requirement. The main play we have to do is we have to meet all the ILOs, so the students will get a degree from Hatfield with the standard of Hatfield. At the same time, we have to make sure that the students will have employability locally, means in Egypt or in the Middle East, as well as their degree from UK can serve them into getting employability, or can get them into higher degrees or like master and PhDs, level 7 and level 8 into Hatfield or any comparable British institute. In this situation, we have to deal a lot with the quality assurance, because we do have actually in campus, we have a dean for quality assurance, and he is looking after the different issues of diverse or content or inclusion of foreign content, and what is the implications on each one of them. In my presentations, I cannot talk about the physiotherapy and the MPharm degrees, because I'm not actually part of them. I attend only meeting with them, but they do also have at this end several issues because of the code of practice in Egypt versus the code of practice foreigner. We understand that majority of the legalization or code of practice or charters in Egyptian and Middle East are usually mirrored after or include significant component from ISO, from EU practice, from North American practice. However, it still stands on its own as a standalone charter. So we had to work on them. So we groups, and we work also and the counter module leaders in different programs to highlight these particular issues and discuss, which will imply that we need more time, we need more capacity and more capabilities of people who understand both languages and understand both content and understand both domains. If I can move to the next slide. So the implication of our work, of our practice, was basically we need to develop a localization guideline and the resources. And we do have a semi-formal guideline because of our practice is still less than 3 years old institute. Our first graduates will be this year, coming September, our graduations. We also run lots of training and professional developments for our staff, and this also focus on how to use the tools, how to use the curriculums from UK, how to embed the UK experience and the Hartfield culture and the experience into our modules. We always look for continuous feedback and iterative improvements from the students and from our partners, and we usually have massive knowledge sharing and collaboration because and actually this comes naturally because our campus, all of us will share different sitting rooms and different offices, so we always have transparent and clear discussions on the different issues. One thing which was also challenging in this kind of environment is the staffing model for the satellite campuses usually are not full-time, are always part-time, because the satellite campus will not have capacity for full-time staff to be able to provide data. And this will increase the turnover of the teaching staff and instructors. And with these turnovers, we lose basically lots of knowledge, which people have been trained working with us for a semester or a year, and you get to the next semester, you have fresh eyes, fresh instructors to teach the same content. And at this point, if we don't keep enough record and we don't keep guidelines, we don't have venues for sharing, such as orientations, such as training. I always admire Mohammed Labasir and Hermenia. Every semester to training for us, so the new guys will come in, will be trained, the old guys will be refreshing the material. So this is summarized, and if you can move to the conclusion, this is summarize my talk. I basically tried to highlight some aspect of internationalization of educational component or educational modules. It hits some issues of localization barriers. We can always, or we had a proposal before to put this content as we publishing in different paper as a Bestel model for macro environment analysis on teaching, but I refrain from using this kind of models in this presentation, and I want just to highlight few cases. But it's true, you have a British system with a kingdom head. We other countries do not have that. So if you come into the constitutional discussions, there are two different variations. They need to know about the UK system, and they need to know about their local system and the regional system, so they can always find opportunities locally if they cannot join international or they can travel overseas. There are serious issues around charters and legalizations and rules, which is need to be giving attention. There are minor issues about culture in terms of examples, like coins and slot machines is a very common one. Having dies is another common one. So this is, and for sure there are the other issues about the equality and stuff, which I don't want to make it sound strange, but we in academic area, we understand, like your first KPI, for example, in UK, we don't have it here. We don't have that much identified minorities. We don't talk about black. We don't talk about this stuff in our cultures. However, this is the parameters. If we want to keep quality, we have to engage, we have to discuss, we have to retain the knowledge. And I believe we are successful, and our students gets internships, gets involved with industry in projects, and hopefully they will get local market. And next year we can talk about their employability rate against the other institutions. This concludes my discussions, and if you move to the next one, it will be question and answers. And I have my GAF email and my sorry, it's supposed to be hertz.ac.uk email for any further discussion if anybody would like to know more.
All right. Thank you very much, Wael. This is really insightful to kind of listen to some of these different challenges, but also areas of things that have changed, and you bring it to that context. I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the room that might have a question or a comment. Hold on. Right. I'm going to bring this across to Katerina. Go.
Hello. Thank you so much for your talk. Can you hear me? All right, excellent.
Yes.
Hi, hello, thank you. It was very interesting. I'm an academic who is currently working with colleagues at GAF, trying to develop a new partnership. So based on what you mentioned about the challenges, the first part of your presentation, and based on your experience, how do you think that GAF colleagues can work, more efficiently with UH colleagues to potentially overcome some challenges? For example, I don't know, overcoming localization issues. So, based on your experience, what do you think should happen next, to potentially overcome these barriers? Yeah.
I believe we continue the dialogue. We may have to do like remote one-on-one. I know travel right now is very expensive and very time consuming, but I believe we continue the discussions. We presented to Hermenia. I recognize the name, by the way, like I recognize your name. So we may be in contact by email or so, but what I'm saying is we have to have the dialogues. We have to be open to the module leaders back end, because some of the DMD may have to change or may have to loosen up the restriction of UK content. So, for example, in accounting, this is the one closest to my mind right now. When you talk about UK or British Charter of Accounting inside your DMD, that's it. I cannot get the Egyptian one. I cannot examine on it. I can only do the only guest speakers. One more thing I also want to share with you, which is coming out of our industry advisory board. They came in and they asked, where are the project management in engineering programs, engineering and computer science? And we have no project management because all the project management are embedded inside our modules. So we had to stand and explain this kind of scenarios that we have. And then we invented a project management training for our students, giving a replica of what we offered in the module. So our students will have a project management training with some sort of certificate so they can fit the perception of the local market. So keep doing the dialogues. The challenge you have is majority of the people is the high turnover of employees and instructors. The instructors joined in October, they let go, they are disengaged. The new ones come in October, they don't have how, they don't want to share, they don't want to give comment. You end up being by mid-semester into a interesting situation because you covered your DMDI laws. However, they cannot go for internship because they lack this information. This is our, in a nutshell. I cannot talk too much because I don't want to be fired. Also, I may be out of the university.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Wael. Thanks, Katerina. Is there anyone online that would like to ask a question or have a comment for Wael? Well, I think that's really insightful. I'm actually quite intrigued about your discussion around the instructors that you have and that high turnover. Is it because of the way the contracts are being set up, or is it people prefers to just work with you for one semester and then go and then come back again, or?
Okay. It's this is actually something close to my heart right now, and I'm observing not only GAF, I'm observing also Coventry and Nova and some other institute east of Cairo, west of Cairo. In nutshell, your source of professors come from the Egyptian government-owned university as 1 or 2 days at most. Majority of them will come to is still unpopulated. It's a rural area. Okay, it's like you drive in sand. Roads are not there. It's very far from anywhere. Egyptian government university are in like Piccadilly Circus, are in Soho, are in the bridge. So people live close to their universities, and their kids are in schools next to their universities. Their mom lives close by. So for somebody to travel all this like 1 hour a day back and forth, after 1 week, 2 weeks, they will get tired. So you have a locality disadvantage. Also, you have higher competition because there are so many other institutions, private or national, or they call it Ahliya University. You have a large number of institutions, and these institutions will increase their rates, and they promise increase of their rates. People usually try to go to teach. The other aspect which I observe in the last 4 years, I've been only here for 4 years, observing so many things. Majority of these professors would like to come with their own slides. They would like to come with their own material because they are not contracted to prepare new material or understand new content. So therefore, they would prefer to go to another institute where they will reteach and reteach and reteach what they taught in their original institution instead of learning new curriculum. If you go away from the seniors like me, you get to the junior. The junior have barrier of language, have low income, have all of the above, and they are struggling and to try to figure out what they want to do. So they give you a shot for trial. Once they have you on their CVs, they are highly sought after by other people. So this reality, I know I'm like I'm senior enough to speak my mind and also characterize the observation. I'm not in favor or against. This is the observation I have been foreseeing in Egypt since I came here 29 of May 2019.
So there is a lot of that tension, isn't it, Wael, within the local context already to kind of make things to kind of work continuously in terms of that enhancement cycle. And that's some of the challenge, with the local competition that is already there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and when your people with knowledge, with background in your courses, with experience in your courses leaves, you have to bring fresh eyes. They did not practice your circle. And guess what? They have to do assessment. Assessment for what? They don't understand the system. System is completely different than the Egyptian standard system. So I highly appreciate your time. So.
All right. Thank you so much, Wael. That's really insightful. I really look forward to hear about it next year in terms of the outcome that you have for the students. So thank you so much, Wael, for your presentation. I think we're going to move on to the next one. I've just lost my book. Sorry, I'm in a very hazardous position here. I'm going to try and, 1 minute. Okay. So I'm going to load Sulamit's presentation. Sulamit, we're starting at 11:45 on our calendar, the invite. So I'm not sure we're going to get other people coming to join us. Just 1 minute. Mikhail, I might need you to stop the recording and then, do the next one. Let me just share.